A rising music star, a young woman who vanished too soon, and a trail of digital breadcrumbs that refuses to disappear. The name d4vd is known to millions online for his moody, haunting songs. But behind the music is a mystery that fans and investigators can't stop dissecting. His connection to Celeste Hernandez, a case filled with unanswered questions, online theories, and a timeline that doesn't add up. Tonight, we pull apart the evidence, the psychology, and the chilling truth of what the internet has uncovered. This isn't just a story about music or fame. It's about secrets, relationships, and how the digital world can expose everything we try to hide. The story of d4vd and Celeste Hernandez isn't just another celebrity rumor. It's a collision of fame, mystery, and dark psychology that has captivated both fans and true crime followers. On the surface, it looks like a typical internet drama. An artist on the rise, a name that keeps appearing in whispers online, and a young woman whose story remains shrouded in speculation. But when you peel back the layers, it becomes something much darker. A case about evidence trails, parasocial relationships, hidden motives, and the way people present themselves online. Why does this case matter? Because it represents the age we live in. An age where digital clues replace eyewitness testimony, where online communities become detectives, and where secrets are almost impossible to keep. Fame meets mystery. For those unfamiliar, d4vd, pronounced David, is a breakout musician, known for turning heartbreak and raw emotion into viral songs. His audience is massive, and with that audience comes attention. The kind of attention that magnifies every relationship, every detail, every shadow from the past. Enter Celeste Hernandez. Her story intertwines with his in ways that are still debated, questioned, and picked apart by fans and skeptics alike. Some claim she's just a figure caught in rumor. Others insist the timeline between her and d4vd suggests something more sinister, something the public was never meant to know. The power of the internet detective. What sets this case apart is not just the relationship itself, but the evidence. Unlike cold cases of the past, this one unfolds in real time, through tweets, deleted posts, archived videos, and digital footprints. It's a story where TikTok threads become case files, where fan forums act like courtrooms, and where theories spread faster than facts. But the internet's role cuts both ways. It can uncover truths, but it can also distort them. And somewhere between speculation and fact lies the chilling mystery of Celeste Hernandez. The psychology at play. As we step into this story, we need to remember one thing. This isn't just about a timeline or evidence. It's about people. Why do fans obsess over celebrity mysteries? Why do hidden relationships spark conspiracies? And most disturbingly, what does it say about human psychology when fame, secrecy, and tragedy collide? The case of d4vd and Celeste Hernandez is not just a mystery to be solved. It's a mirror reflecting back the way we consume stories, the way we elevate public figures, and the way dark psychology plays out in the digital age. Now that we understand why this case is different, why it matters both as a true crime mystery and as a study of human behavior, let's move deeper. In the next section, we'll break down the timeline of events, who d4vd is, what we know about Celeste Hernandez, and how their stories became entangled in a mystery the internet refuses to let go. Setting the stage. Every mystery has two starting points: the public face and the private reality. For d4vd, the public face was clear. He was a breakout artist, a teenager whose emotional tracks, songs like "Here With Me," captured millions of listeners with their raw honesty. He wasn't just making music, he was building a persona, a symbol of young heartbreak in the digital age. But behind that music, questions lingered. And for Celeste Hernandez, those questions became inescapable. To understand this case, we need to walk through the timeline, piece by piece, moment by moment, to see how the threads connect, where the inconsistencies lie, and why fans became convinced that something deeper was unfolding. Who is d4vd? Born David Anthony Burke, d4vd emerged from Houston, Texas, as a bedroom producer-turned-singer who rose to fame during the pandemic. His unique sound, combining indie, alternative, and emotional lyrics, made him stand out in a crowded field of internet musicians. But here's the key. d4vd built his career in the open. Every song, every live stream, every Instagram post contributed to his digital diary. That diary made him relatable, but it also made him vulnerable. Because when your life is online, nothing stays private. Who was Celeste Hernandez? Unlike d4vd, Celeste wasn't famous. She didn't have millions of streams or global recognition, but her name began to circulate in online communities, connected, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, to the rising star. Her story wasn't straightforward. Depending on who you ask, she was a private figure caught in public obsession, a young woman with a complicated past, or something more. A hidden part of d4vd's personal life that fans stumbled upon accidentally. The truth lies somewhere in between. The first clues, the earliest references to Celeste Hernandez didn't come from mainstream news. They came from fans. Screenshots, archived posts, and whispers in forums began to piece together a picture. Some showed interactions, others suggested connections between her and d4vd. A few even hinted at something darker. Inconsistencies in timelines, abrupt disappearances, and silence where answers should have been. It's here that the digital detective work begins. Fans began tracing deleted Instagram posts, connections between usernames, mentions in lyrics or cryptic captions. For most people, these would be random coincidences. But for fans obsessed with detail, they became evidence. The disappearance of Celeste. One of the most haunting elements of this case is the idea that Celeste disappeared from public view. She wasn't a public figure, so her absence shouldn't have mattered. But once her name became connected to d4vd, people noticed that her online presence faded. Accounts vanished, mentions stopped, silence grew. And in the world of internet mystery, silence is louder than noise. Timeline of events simplified. While the exact details remain debated, here's a reconstruction of what's been pieced together online. Early mentions. Celeste's name appears in fan communities connected to d4vd. Digital footprints. Interactions between accounts spark theories. Sudden silence. Celeste's accounts become inactive or vanish. Speculation explodes. Fans begin connecting dots. Posts, lyrics, even concert dedications. Conflicting narratives. Some claim Celeste is fine and simply private. Others insist the disappearance is deliberate, covering something darker. Each step adds another layer of confusion. And with no official narrative, speculation fills the void. Why the timeline matters. Timelines aren't just about dates. They're about patterns. In true crime, a timeline shows us when the story makes sense and when it doesn't. Here, the timeline reveals three critical insights. The public versus private divide. d4vd's life was wide open online, but Celeste's became hidden. Abrupt disruptions. Accounts and connections don't just vanish without reason. Fan-driven evidence. Much of what we know exists only because people archived, screenshotted, and speculated. That last point is key. Without the internet, Celeste's name might never have entered this conversation. But in a digital world, every deletion is evidence. Every silence is suspicious. The human impact. Behind the theories and timelines, it's important to remember, these are real people. Celeste Hernandez was not a character in a movie. She was a young woman whose life, for reasons still unclear, became entangled in one of the internet's most puzzling mysteries. For d4vd, the scrutiny has been relentless. Every lyric, every post is dissected for hidden meaning. It's the cost of fame in an era where personal life and public art can no longer be separated. Now that we've mapped the timeline, the rise of d4vd, the emergence of Celeste Hernandez, and the silence that followed, we need to go deeper, because timelines show us what happened, but not why. In the next section, we'll dig into the digital evidence, the clues left behind in posts, accounts, and fan theories that continue to fuel this mystery. The internet never forgets. In traditional crime investigations, detectives rely on fingerprints, surveillance footage, or eyewitness accounts. But in the digital age, evidence looks different. It's tweets, it's Instagram stories, it's TikTok threads that vanish in 24 hours, unless someone screenshots them first. The story of d4vd and Celeste Hernandez is built almost entirely on this kind of fragile evidence. Posts appear, disappear, and reappear through the work of online archivists, fans who dedicate themselves to preserving every scrap of information before it's deleted. The result is a digital puzzle. Fragments of screenshots, whispers from private messages, and blurred photos that may or may not mean anything. But when you put them together, a picture begins to form. Deleted posts. One of the most consistent pieces of evidence fans point to is the pattern of deleted posts. Photos that once showed connections gone. Captions with cryptic references erased. Accounts linked to Celeste suddenly deactivated. For skeptics, this means nothing. People delete posts all the time. For believers, it's a smoking gun. Because why erase something unless you're hiding it? The psychology here is fascinating. Absence becomes presence. By deleting, the subjects draw more attention than if they had left the posts alone. Username connections. Another detail fans latch onto is username overlap. Archived screenshots show accounts linked by mutual follows. Some usernames seem to mirror or reference each other. Even after deletions, fragments of those connections remain in old comment threads. To outsiders, this is trivial, but for fans, it suggests an underlying relationship, the kind that didn't want to be public, but left fingerprints online anyway. Song lyrics as evidence. Here's where things get even murkier. d4vd's music is emotional, raw, and often ambiguous. But fans insist that certain lyrics, especially in songs released during the period Celeste's name was circulating, hint at hidden truths. Lines about loss, secrecy, and disappearance. Themes of guilt and hidden love. Verses that, when paired with a timeline, seem less like art and more like confession. Of course, lyrics are meant to be interpreted, but in the context of a mystery, every word feels like a clue. Fan theories in action. The evidence itself is flimsy without context. What gives it power is the theories built around it. The hidden relationship theory. d4vd and Celeste were involved privately. Posts and usernames linked them. Deletions were attempts to erase the connection. The cover-up theory. Something darker happened. Celeste's disappearance from digital spaces is intentional silence. The erasure is not just about privacy, but about hiding. The coincidence theory. Celeste was never connected meaningfully. Fans created a mystery out of normal social media behavior. The story is more about obsession than truth. Each theory has passionate defenders, and each uses the same fragments of evidence to prove opposite conclusions. Screenshots as court records. One striking aspect of this case is how fans treat screenshots like official documents. On Reddit threads, Discord servers, and Twitter posts, screenshots are archived, annotated, and debated like trial exhibits. People circle usernames, highlight captions, and create timelines of post-deletions. It's an example of crowdsourced investigation, thousands of strangers acting as amateur detectives. But without the rigor of law enforcement, these court records live in a gray area between fact and speculation. The role of TikTok and Reddit. If Instagram provided the raw material, TikTok and Reddit amplified it. TikTok videos piece together evidence boards, presenting theories with dramatic music and voiceovers. Reddit threads became long archives, with users posting every new find, every new rumor. Debunkers and believers clashed, creating a cycle where each attempt to dismiss the case only fueled more curiosity. This is the new face of digital mystery. Not just evidence, but the performance of investigation. Psychological impact of digital evidence. Why do these fragments feel so powerful? Because of pattern recognition. The human brain is wired to find meaning, even in chaos. When we see a deleted post, a suspicious lyric, a vanished account, our minds connect the dots, even if no connection exists. That's why fan theories thrive on digital evidence. It's not about what's proven, it's about what feels connected, the unreliability of online evidence. Here's the paradox. The very thing that makes digital evidence compelling is what makes it unreliable. Screenshots can be faked, context can be lost, posts can be misinterpreted. Unlike physical evidence, digital fragments exist in an unstable environment. But once they're circulated enough, they gain the illusion of truth. And that's where the danger lies. Why this matters? The case of d4vd and Celeste Hernandez may never be solved in the traditional sense. There may never be a police report, a confession, or a court ruling. But the digital evidence has already created its own reality. In the minds of fans, the screenshots, lyrics, and timelines are enough. They've built a story. And once a story gains traction online, it becomes almost impossible to dismantle. We've seen the clues. We've examined the digital footprints. But evidence only tells us what happened. To truly understand this case, we need to ask, why? Why would someone hide a relationship? Why would posts vanish? And most importantly, why do people kill or cover up in the first place? In the next section, we'll dive into the motives and hidden psychology that could explain the mystery of d4vd and Celeste Hernandez. Beyond the evidence, digital clues can show us what might have happened, but they don't explain why. Why posts vanish? Why someone retreats from public view? Why an artist, at the peak of rising fame, would allow a shadow of mystery to hang over his name? To understand that, we need to look at psychology, because behind every mystery lies motive. And behind every motive lies the human need for control, power, love, or escape. The psychology of secrecy. Humans keep secrets for many reasons. Protection, to shield loved ones from scrutiny. Power, because knowledge gives control. Fear of judgment, rejection, or exposure. Shame, when the truth feels too heavy to bear. In the context of d4vd and Celeste Hernandez, secrecy might have served multiple roles. For a public figure like d4vd, relationships can feel dangerous. Every person connected to him becomes a target of fan curiosity, media intrusion, and endless speculation. But secrecy also creates suspicion. And when secrecy is paired with disappearance, it triggers the darkest question of all. What is being hidden and why? Motive 1. Protecting a career. For a rising star, image is everything. Relationships, especially complicated ones, can derail momentum. Some speculate that the silence around Celeste Hernandez may have been about protecting d4vd's career. By erasing digital traces, he could maintain a clean, untouchable persona. But there's a darker side. Protecting an image isn't just about career. It's also about control. The ability to decide what the world sees and what it doesn't. And control, in psychology, is a powerful motive. Motive 2. Escaping consequences. Another possibility is the motive of avoidance. When people fear judgment, they erase evidence. They shut down accounts. They disappear from the digital sphere. It's not about innocence or guilt. It's about self-preservation. But avoidance has consequences. It creates gaps. And those gaps get filled by speculation. The human mind hates an unfinished puzzle. When pieces are missing, we supply them ourselves, often with the darkest assumptions possible. Motive 3. Hidden relationship dynamics. At the heart of this case is the possibility that d4vd and Celeste Hernandez shared a relationship, one that was never meant to be public. Psychology tells us that hidden relationships often carry unique dynamics. They can be intense because secrecy creates adrenaline. They can be unstable because secrecy also creates pressure. They can end abruptly because exposure feels like danger. If this was the case, then Celeste's disappearance from digital spaces may not have been random. It may have been deliberate, a way to protect both parties from the fallout of exposure, the dark side of fame. But there's another motive we can't ignore: fame itself. Fame distorts psychology in profound ways. It creates parasocial relationships. Fans feel entitled to know everything about the star's life. It magnifies mistakes. What would be private for anyone else becomes headline news. It breeds paranoia. Every connection feels like a liability. For someone like d4vd, the pressure of fame may have made secrecy not just a choice, but a necessity. But in protecting himself, he may have inadvertently created the very mystery that fans now obsess over. Psychological archetypes in this case. To better understand the motives, let's map them to archetypes. The protector hides evidence to shield loved ones. The image maker erases connections to maintain control over public image. The escapist deletes traces to avoid judgment or consequences. The thrill seeker thrives on secrecy itself, finding excitement in hidden truths. Which archetype fits this case? Possibly all four. That's what makes it so compelling. It's not a simple motive. It's layered, complex, and deeply human. The role of fear. Fear is one of the strongest human motivators. And in this case, fear may have played multiple roles. Fear of exposure. Fear of judgment. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing everything built through fame. Fear drives people to act irrationally, to delete posts, to silence accounts, to erase names from the record. But fear also leaves a fingerprint, and fans, sensing fear, follow it like bloodhounds. Celeste's perspective. We must also consider Celeste Hernandez's side. What might have motivated her actions, or her silence? Desire for privacy. Perhaps she never wanted to be in the spotlight. Pressure. Being linked to a rising star can feel suffocating. Safety. Sometimes silence is about protection, not guilt. Manipulation. In some relationships, one party controls the narrative, leaving the other voiceless. Her absence online may not be suspicious. It may be a choice, but the ambiguity feeds speculation, and speculation feeds obsession. The shadow of obsession. Obsession itself is a motive. Fans are obsessed with this case because they want closure. But what if someone involved was also obsessed? Obsession can lead to extreme actions, deleting everything to start fresh, cutting ties abruptly, creating narratives that obscure truth. When obsession and secrecy combine, reality becomes hard to separate from illusion. The psychological cost. Regardless of what happened, the psychological cost is immense. For d4vd, living under suspicion, every lyric dissected. For Celeste, existing as a mystery, her story told by others. For fans, pouring time and energy into solving a puzzle that may have no solution. The psychology of this case isn't just about them. It's about us, the consumers of true crime, the detectives of the internet, the ones who demand answers even when none exist. We've explored the motives: protection, control, fear, secrecy, obsession. But there's a larger force at play, one that shapes not just this case, but the way we all engage with celebrity mysteries. It's the phenomenon of parasocial relationships, when fans feel like they know a star personally, and when private lives become public property. In the next section, we'll dive into parasocial psychology, fame, and the dark side of digital intimacy. The digital illusion of intimacy. In the old days, celebrities felt distant. We saw them on TV, in movies, or at concerts, but there was always a wall between us and them. Today, that wall is gone. Social media has turned stars into constant companions. We see their morning coffee, their late-night thoughts, their unfiltered feelings in real time. It feels personal. It feels intimate. But it isn't real intimacy. It's a parasocial relationship, a one-sided bond where fans believe they know a celebrity, while the celebrity has no idea who they are. The case of d4vd and Celeste Hernandez lives inside this phenomenon. The blurred line between public and private, between music and confession, is what fuels speculation. And it's why fans feel entitled to demand answers about Celeste, as though her story belongs to them too. What is a parasocial relationship? Coined in the 1950s, the term parasocial described the one-sided relationships people formed with TV personalities. Viewers felt like they knew news anchors or talk show hosts, even though the relationship only existed in their minds. In the digital era, this has exploded. Now, TikTok creators talk directly into the camera. Instagram stories simulate casual conversation. Live streams allow fans to interact in real time. For fans of d4vd, this parasocial bond is powerful. His music feels like diary entries. His words feel like confessions. And when whispers of Celeste Hernandez appeared, the parasocial relationship made fans feel they had a right to the truth. The psychology of entitlement. Parasocial bonds aren't just emotional. They create a sense of entitlement. Fans feel they should know who the artist is dating. They believe they can decode hidden meanings in lyrics. They demand explanations for sudden silences or deleted posts. This entitlement drives the obsession with Celeste. Fans don't just want to know what happened. They feel they deserve to know. And when information is withheld, the imagination fills the gaps. Why fame feeds mystery? Fame is a paradox. Celebrities need exposure to succeed, but exposure invites intrusion. Every detail, no matter how small, becomes a clue. For d4vd, this meant that even normal behavior, like deleting a post or writing an emotional lyric, became magnified. For Celeste, it meant that simply disappearing from digital spaces transformed into a suspicious act. In a parasocial context, nothing is ordinary. Everything is evidence. Case studies of parasocial obsession. This isn't unique to d4vd and Celeste. We've seen parasocial obsession play out before. Britney Spears. Fans created the hashtag #FreeBritney movement, interpreting every Instagram post as a coded cry for help. Doja Cat faced backlash when fans discovered her secret relationships, with many insisting she had betrayed them. John Lennon and Mark David Chapman. In one of the darkest examples, a parasocial obsession led directly to violence. These cases reveal the danger. When fans can't separate art from reality, the consequences can spiral into obsession, harassment, or worse. The dark psychology of ownership. Parasocial psychology often leads fans to feel a sense of ownership over their idol's life. This ownership manifests in different ways. Protective ownership. Fans defend their idol against criticism. Demanding ownership. Fans expect access to personal life details. Punitive ownership. Fans turn hostile when the idol doesn't meet their expectations. In the case of Celeste Hernandez, this ownership drives the mystery. Fans don't just want answers. They feel betrayed by silence. They see secrecy as a violation of the unspoken contract between star and fan. Celebrity psychology. Living under a microscope. For celebrities, parasocial dynamics can be suffocating. Every move is scrutinized, every silence questioned. Psychologists describe this as living in a panopticon, a prison where you are always watched, even if no one is looking at you in the moment. For d4vd, this means every lyric is dissected, every deleted post is archived, every rumor becomes a headline in fan spaces. The pressure of this constant gaze can explain why secrecy becomes so important, and why even normal actions become magnified into mystery. Celeste in the parasocial web. Celeste Hernandez, willingly or not, became part of this parasocial web. Her online silence became a stage on which fans projected their theories. Was she silenced? Was she hiding? Was she gone entirely? The tragedy here is that Celeste may not have sought attention at all. Yet parasocial psychology made her into a character in someone else's story, a symbol rather than a person. Why fans become digital detectives? So why do fans take it upon themselves to investigate? Psychology provides several answers. Control. In a chaotic world, solving mysteries provides comfort. Connection. Sharing theories creates community among fans. Validation. Discovering a clue provides a rush of importance. Justice. Belief that they are uncovering hidden truths the world needs to know. In the case of Celeste, this detective work feels righteous to fans. They believe they are protecting her, or exposing the truth about d4vd. But in reality, they may be constructing a narrative out of shadows. The blur. Why comparisons matter. Mysteries rarely exist in isolation. To make sense of one case, we instinctively compare it to others, both real and fictional. It helps us place the unfamiliar into a framework we already understand. The d4vd and Celeste Hernandez story sits at a crossroads between celebrity psychology, digital age obsession, and unresolved disappearance. To see its uniqueness, we must measure it against other cases where fame, secrecy, and parasocial bonds collided. Case Study 1. Luca Magnotta, Fame Through Infamy. Before TikTok detectives and Instagram theorists, there was Luca Magnotta. Magnotta's story is infamous. A young man desperate for fame who created online personas, posted disturbing videos, and eventually committed a horrific murder, documenting it for the internet. Like d4vd, Magnotta's story unfolded in a digital ecosystem. Every clue was online. Usernames, posts, forum activity. And like Celeste's case, much of the narrative was pieced together by internet communities before mainstream media caught up. The difference? Magnotta's motive was explicit. He craved notoriety. With d4vd and Celeste, the motives are hidden, speculative, and still debated. But both cases remind us of a chilling truth. In the digital age, the internet itself becomes both the crime scene and the courtroom. Case Study 2. The Slender Man Stabbing. Fiction becomes reality. In 2014, two 12-year-old girls lured their friend into the woods and stabbed her, claiming they were serving the fictional character Slender Man. At its heart, this case revealed the power of belief and obsession. A fictional narrative became so real to these children that they acted on it. How does this connect to Celeste? Fans have turned whispers and fragments into a mythology. Screenshots become scripture. Theories become fact in the minds of believers. Just as Slender Man blurred fiction and reality, the Celeste case blurs privacy and public story. Case Study 3. The Britney Spears conservatorship. Fans as saviors. The hashtag Free Britney movement is perhaps the clearest parallel to parasocial activism. For years, Britney Spears lived under a strict conservatorship. Fans analyzed every Instagram post, every caption, convinced she was secretly crying for help. Eventually, they were proven right. Their activism helped free her. In the Celeste case, fans also believe they are uncovering hidden truths. They act as guardians, investigators, and protectors. But here lies the danger. In Britney's case, evidence emerged to support the theories. In Celeste's case, the evidence is fragmented, ambiguous, and unverified. This comparison shows both the power and peril of parasocial investigation. Sometimes it saves lives. Sometimes it creates stories where none exist. Case Study 4. Christina Grimmie, The Dark Side of Parasocial Love. In 2016, singer Christina Grimmie was shot by a fan who had developed an obsessive parasocial relationship with her. This case highlights the most frightening risk of celebrity psychology: when obsession turns violent. Celeste's case isn't about violence in the same way, but the dynamic is similar. Fans insert themselves into narratives, convinced they know the truth, and sometimes escalate beyond healthy boundaries. It's a reminder that parasocial bonds aren't harmless. They can distort reality, create entitlement, and push people into extreme behavior. Case Study 5. Fictional parallels, Gone Girl and Dexter. Sometimes fiction explains reality better than real cases. In Gone Girl, a woman disappears, and media speculation builds a narrative that overshadows the truth. Celeste's silence functions similarly. Absence becomes story. In Dexter, a killer hides behind a moral code, justifying murder as justice. Fans project similar narratives onto celebrities, turning speculation into myth. These fictional examples show how much of the Celeste case lives in narrative space. It's not just about what happened. It's about how the story is told, retold, and mythologized. The spectrum of cases. When we line up these comparisons, a spectrum emerges. Fame-seeking criminals, Luca Magnotta. Obsession-fueled violence, Slender Man Grimmie. Fan activism and investigation, Britney Spears. Narrative mythologies, Gone Girl, Dexter. Where does the d4vd and Celeste case fit? It contains elements of all four. It has the digital evidence of Magnotta, the fan obsession of Slender Man, the activism of Britney's fans, the myth-making of Gone Girl. But it doesn't fit neatly into any category. And that's what makes it uniquely unsettling. Why these comparisons matter? Comparisons don't solve mysteries, but they reveal patterns. They show us how the unfinished puzzle. The case of d4vd and Celeste Hernandez doesn't have the kind of ending people crave. There's no confession, no police report, no clear resolution. Instead, it lives in the space between fact and speculation. An unfinished puzzle the internet refuses to stop trying to solve. But that lack of closure might be the very reason it endures. Mysteries thrive on ambiguity. And in the digital age, ambiguity becomes fuel for endless debate, endless theories, endless obsession. The aftermath for d4vd. For d4vd, the aftermath is a career under scrutiny. Every song he releases, every lyric he writes, every post he deletes is dissected for clues. Fans don't just hear music, they hear possible confessions. They don't just see art, they see evidence. This is the burden of digital age fame. Your art is no longer your own. It becomes a mirror where fans project their theories, fears, and fantasies. Whether innocent or complicit, d4vd lives in a world where his story has been hijacked. His private life has become public property, and reclaiming it may be impossible. The aftermath for Celeste. For Celeste Hernandez, the aftermath is even more haunting. She exists now as a mystery, a name whispered in threads and videos, her identity blurred by speculation. To some, she is a victim. To others, a rumor. To all, she has become something more than herself, a symbol. But symbols erase people, and that is the tragedy here. Celeste Hernandez, whoever she truly was, has been reduced to fragments. Screenshots, usernames, absences. Her silence has been interpreted 1,000 ways. But the truth may be something ordinary, something private. And yet the internet refuses to let her rest in privacy. The internet's role in the aftermath. The real protagonist of this story isn't d4vd or Celeste. It's the internet. The internet amplifies mysteries. It archives evidence. It constructs narratives. It transforms private lives into collective entertainment. But the internet also distorts. It spreads rumors faster than facts. It rewards speculation over truth. It makes every story bigger, louder, and harder to escape. In this sense, the aftermath of the Celeste Hernandez case is not just about two people. It's about all of us. How we consume stories, how we build myths, and how we blur the line between curiosity and intrusion. Lessons from the case. So what do we take away from this? Fame is fragile, no matter how carefully curated. Every public image is vulnerable to speculation. Secrecy creates suspicion. The more evidence is erased, the louder the questions become. Fans shape narratives. In the digital age, fans aren't just observers. They're participants, investigators, and storytellers. Privacy is almost impossible. Once your name enters the internet's bloodstream, it never leaves. Reflection on dark psychology. At its core, this case is about dark psychology, not just of individuals, but of crowds. The psychology of secrecy that drives people to hide. The psychology of fame that pressures celebrities into impossible positions. The psychology of obsession that transforms fans into detectives. And the psychology of storytelling that turns lives into myths. The d4vd and Celeste Hernandez story may not have blood, violence, or a courtroom, but psychologically, it is as dark and disturbing as any true crime case, because it shows how fragile truth has become in a world where narrative reigns supreme. The larger implications. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. When does curiosity become exploitation? When does fandom become obsession? And when does storytelling erase the people at its center? In chasing the mystery, we risk dehumanizing both d4vd and Celeste. We turn them into characters in a drama, rather than people with fears, desires, and dignity. That, perhaps, is the greatest crime of all. Closing reflection. The story of d4vd and Celeste Hernandez may never be solved. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the real lesson is not about uncovering the truth, but about examining ourselves. Why we demand answers, why we build myths, and why we can't look away from mysteries we may never understand. Because in the end, the internet doesn't just reveal darkness. It creates it. What do you think? Was this a case of hidden love, a deliberate cover-up, or nothing more than the internet creating shadows where none exist? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into the psychology of unsolved mysteries and true crime, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Because the more we study these stories, the closer we come to understanding the darkness not just in others, but in ourselves.